In a shocking escalation of tensions, the U.S. has launched direct military strikes against Iran, resulting in the death of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's son. This aggressive move marks a dangerous turning point in U.S.-Iran relations. Here's what you need to know. The immediate future holds several potential outcomes stemming from this escalation. Recent military tensions have intensified significantly, particularly following the latest U.S. airstrikes in response to Iranian provocations, which included attacks on shipping vessels and threats against U.S. personnel. Iranian retaliation is highly likely in this volatile context, as the nation has vowed to respond to what it perceives as aggression. Iran may launch missile or drone strikes targeting U.S. bases in the region, Israeli interests, or critical oil infrastructure, escalating the cycle of violence. Such actions could provoke further U.S. military responses, including the deployment of additional forces to the Middle East and expanded strikes on Iranian nuclear sites, which have been a point of contention for years. The potential for a broader conflict is palpable, and with regional allies and adversaries closely monitoring these developments, as the situation could shift alliances and provoke new hostilities. If the Strait of Hormuz is disrupted, a vital waterway for global oil transportation, we could witness a global oil shock, with prices surging by 20 to 30%, triggering economic instability worldwide. This disruption could have cascading effects on economies already strained by inflation and supply chain issues. The diplomatic fallout from this crisis may further isolate the U.S. on the international stage, as European allies express criticism over abandoning diplomatic efforts in favor of military action. In the long term, the risks of a full-scale regional war could escalate, igniting conflicts involving multiple Middle Eastern nations. Additionally, if Iran accelerates its nuclear program, it may prompt neighboring countries, such as Saudi Arabia and Turkey, to pursue their own weapons programs, exacerbating regional instability. The potential for an economic collapse looms if a sustained oil crisis occurs, leading to a global recession. In light of these complexities, the coming weeks will be crucial in determining whether this conflict will spiral into a new era of warfare in the Middle East. The current crisis is the culmination of a months-long breakdown in U.S.-Iran relations. It began with the June Memorandum of Understanding, which aimed to limit Iran's nuclear program and ease economic sanctions. However, Iran's alleged violations of this agreement, including the restarting of nuclear activities, have stoked tensions significantly. President Trump's hardline stance against Iran has consistently rejected diplomatic compromises, favoring military pressure over negotiation. This approach has exacerbated an already volatile situation, leading to a series of provocations that have drawn international concern. Notably, Iran's attacks on oil tankers in the strategically vital Strait of Hormuz raised alarm bells globally, as this waterway is crucial for international oil shipments. Concurrently, Iran's suspected nuclear facility rebuilds prompted the U.S. to launch retaliatory strikes, escalating military tensions further. The recent leadership transition in Iran, following the death of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has intensified the nation's resolve against the U.S. Mojtaba Khamenei's vow for revenge after his father's killing signals a shift toward a more aggressive Iranian posture. This backdrop of historical grievances, strategic miscalculations, and leadership changes has led to the precarious situation we now face. The implications are far-reaching, as rising tensions could destabilize the entire Middle East, impacting global oil prices and international security alliances. Looking ahead, both nations must navigate this complex landscape carefully. The challenges of reestablishing trust are immense, yet diplomatic channels remain crucial. With both sides entrenched in their positions, the potential for conflict looms large. As regional powers and global stakeholders weigh their responses, the next few weeks will be critical in determining whether a new diplomatic framework can emerge or if the cycle of retaliation will escalate into broader hostilities, potentially engulfing the region in conflict. The recent escalation in U.S.-Iran tensions marks a critical juncture in international relations, one that could reshape global dynamics. This situation escalated following the collapse of diplomatic agreements aimed at curbing Iran's nuclear ambitions, particularly the 2015 Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, which the U.S. withdrew from in 2018. Iran's reconstruction of nuclear facilities indicates a shift toward a potential weapons program, raising alarms not only within the Middle East, but also in Western capitals. The fear of a nuclear arms race in an already volatile region is palpable, as neighboring countries like Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates may feel compelled to enhance their own military capabilities in response to Iran's advancements. Furthermore, the conflict poses a significant risk to global energy markets. The Strait of Hormuz is a vital maritime corridor responsible for transporting approximately 20% of the world's oil supply. Any disruption to this route, whether through direct military action or sabotage of oil tankers, could lead to dramatic increases in energy prices. Such spikes would reverberate across the globe, leading to higher gas prices for consumers and potentially stalling economic recovery in various countries still grappling with the aftereffects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Additionally, Iran's vow for retaliation could ignite a series of proxy conflicts across the Middle East, involving militant groups such as Hezbollah, Hamas, and various Iraqi factions. This escalation could further destabilize an already fragile region, leading to increased casualties and humanitarian crises that would necessitate international intervention. Moreover, the deterioration of U.S.-Iran relations undermines America's credibility in diplomatic negotiations, potentially pushing Iran closer to alliances with Russia and China. This shift could realign global power structures, making it more challenging for the U.S. and its allies to exert influence in the region. As tensions mount, the potential for miscalculation grows, raising the stakes for all parties involved. In this precarious environment, the international community must prioritize dialogue and pursue diplomatic solutions to avert a catastrophic confrontation that could have lasting consequences for global peace and security. The coming weeks will be crucial in determining whether diplomacy can prevail over conflict. Overnight on July 10-11, 2026, the United States and Iran engaged in direct airstrikes, effectively shattering the fragile memorandum of understanding signed in late June. President Donald Trump signaled the end of the ceasefire by launching fresh military strikes on Iranian territory. These strikes specifically targeted suspected nuclear-related facilities and defense infrastructure within Iran. In a swift response, Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, publicly vowed immediate revenge for the killing of his father, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, during the U.S. strikes. This sudden escalation raises significant concerns, as it comes just weeks after both nations had tentatively agreed to de-escalate tensions through diplomacy. The backdrop to this conflict is rooted in decades of animosity between the U.S. and Iran, particularly following former President Trump's withdrawal from the Iran nuclear deal in 2018. The situation has worsened in recent months, with Iran's nuclear ambitions becoming increasingly alarming to Washington and its allies. CNN's exclusive satellite imagery further confirms that Iran is actively rebuilding its suspected nuclear facilities, raising alarms that Tehran may have violated the June MOU even before the U.S. attacks commenced. This renewed focus on Iran's nuclear program has intensified fears of a potential arms race in the Middle East. In addition to military action, the United States issued new sanctions targeting key financiers for Mojtaba Khamenei and 13 other entities. These sanctions follow Tehran's resumed attacks on oil tankers in the critical Strait of Hormuz, a vital passage for global oil shipments. President Trump, while agreeing to continue talks with Iran, explicitly declared that the ceasefire is over. This aggressive series of events marks a significant escalation in tensions, and the potential for a wider conflict looms large. The implications of these developments are profound. Economically, rising tensions could disrupt oil markets, leading to increased prices and further destabilizing the global economy. Politically, the U.S. may face pressure from allies to reconsider its military strategy in the region. As both nations appear locked in a cycle of retaliation, the prospect of renewed negotiations seems increasingly bleak. Looking ahead, the international community must urgently engage in dialogue to prevent further escalation and seek a sustainable resolution to this long-standing conflict. As the U.S. and Iran engage in a dangerous cycle of retaliation, what do you think will happen next? Share your predictions in the comments below and subscribe for daily deep dives into the world's most pressing issues.